had performed as well as we did, we would have already been a 5 trillion economy without any excuses. No COVID, no demonet, no nothing. So the point is, we are a performing state. And this, by the way, also, despite any support, For those of you who are wondering, what about the macro picture vis-a-vis India? Let me tell you, we are less than 2.5% of India's population. We are a smaller state. We are the 12th largest. In terms of population, if you look at it, we are the size of Malaysia. In terms of geography, we are the size of South Korea. But in terms of our contribution to India's GDP, we are 2.5% of India, but we contribute to 5% of India's GDP. So every 1 rupee we pay in taxes to Government of India, we get about 45 paisa back. But nevertheless, we never complain. We are happy to contribute to the growth of this great country, great nation. But we feel pinched when we have the Union Finance Minister coming in and asking us questions like, हमने आपको इतना दिया या मोदी जी का तस्वीर क्यों नहीं लगाया आपने PDS के शॉप में थोड़ा दुख होता है. But having conclude by saying, this is a state that's a shining example on how stable government and able leadership can change things in India, can turn around the sectors which were hitherto called sick, can also do a fine balance of both rural, urban. Our environment, by the way, has grown by 7.7%. Our forest cover, green cover, has grown by 7.7%. If one were to ask me in one line, if you have to sum up the Telangana model, I'd say it's a holistic, integrated, balanced, and inclusive model. What do I mean? We are 2.5% of India, but we win 30% of National Panchayat awards. We are 2.5% of India, but we win more than 26 awards in Swachh Sarvekshan for municipalities. So there's a fine balance of rural development and urban development. Our industry is growing, so is our environment. Our IT exports are growing, so are our agri exports. So this is the kind of model that India needs if it really has to propel itself into the first world, if it really has to become a truly developed country which respects all faiths, which does not discriminate its people based on their skin color, based on their sex, based on their religion or social class. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Jai Hind, Jai Telangana.
Now it's for questions. I request you to
Good evening, sir. I'm Vishwesh from the IPS in Tamil Nadu cadre. I had two questions, sir. In this overall transformation for the most innovative and the state of Telangana, what do you foresee as the transformative role of the bureaucracy? Apart from the political class, the bureaucracy is also an important element. And how should it synergize with the private sector to give you the desired results? The second thing is, sir, an enlightened political leadership is the major factor. So do you have any plans of transmitting your ideas to other state political leadership? It is, I'm not talking very lightly, because the political leadership of all states need to come together and take the experience from a successful state like you, so that they can drive their states towards. So these are two things, sir, the political class as well as the bureaucracy. Thank you, sir.
Vishwesh, which state are you originally from?
I'm from Kerala, sir.
Kerala. I love your state, by the way. I was there for my birthday recently as well. Two questions. First, I think, what's the role of bureaucracy? I'd say two things. I mean, I'm going to be a bit candid, so please don't hate me for saying this. Even if you do, don't tell me. The first thing is, in India, the bureaucrats are used to sitting in their ivory towers and people coming to them begging, saying, "My baap, permission de do, ye kar do, wo kar do." We are all used to sitting there up in our castles. That's one thing that needs to change. That's one thing that absolutely needs to change. And the second thing, whether you like it or not, I'm going to say it. You look at the political class. We are the world's largest democracy, Vishwesh. When you're the world's largest democracy, please remember that it is the political representatives that will have to run the government, right? But the typical pushback from the bureaucracy is, when I'm elected as a minister, for instance, पहली बात तो ये होता है कि पहले 6 महीने जो है, first 6 months, typically goes away in trying to understand the job. And the last 6 months anyway goes away in trying to fight elections again. 6 months or 1 year, last 1 year. तो मुझे बचा मेरे पास 3-3.5 साल. And if I have to effect change in the 3.5-4 years, if I get a pushback from the bureaucracy, क्योंकि bureaucracy को ये लगता है, IAS officers को, IPS officers को, कि हम लोग retirement तक यहाँ पे है, अब ये बंदा वापस आएगा नहीं आएगा किसको पता, ये तो गेस्ट आर्टिस्ट है, हम तो परमानेंट आर्टिस्ट है, बेहतर जानते हैं, हमने कोई एक परीक्षा हमने तय किया, परीक्षा हमने मतलब पार किया, तो हम बेहतर जानते हैं, हमारे पास ज़्यादा नॉलेज है, वो गलत है. इंडिया की रियलिटी जो है मेरे हिसाब से जो रूटेड है, जो लोगों से हमें मिलता है, जो ओपिनियन या जो फीडबैक हमें मिलता है, उसके हिसाब से हम डिमांड करते हैं, उसके हिसाब से हम काम प्लानिंग करते हैं. The first thing I think we need to understand is each of us. The executive has their role, the legislature has their role, the judiciary has its role. We have well-defined roles. We should not step on each other's toes, respect each other, work with each other for the betterment of the country. I'll give you a classic example. In fact, I was narrating it to my colleagues. So I went to Paris, on a business trip. I'll not name names, it would not be good. तो वहाँ पे 2-4 दिन हम लोग बहुत मीटिंग्स किए हमने, तो फिर बाद में we were on a way back. So there was this young officer, foreign service officer. So I told him, I said, boss, ऐसा करो, जो भी हमने बात की, जो भी हमने लीड जनरेट किया, थोड़ा इसका अगर कुछ है, मतलब कोई इंटरेस्ट है, because I'm setting up the world's largest pharma cluster in my state. And one of the logical things of pharma, extension of pharma is cosmetics. And Paris is the cosmetics capital, it's the cosmetics valley of the world. So I told this guy, I said, ऐसा है कि हमारी भारत सरकार के साथ, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के साथ नहीं पटती है, तो ऐसा है अगर कुछ कोई लीड है तो हमें डायरेक्ट भेज देना, बता देना. You know what he said? And I think this applies to all of bureaucracy. He said, sir, I don't work for government of India alone. I work for India. This is what he said. And I think that should be the philosophy, that should be the mantra. Cutting across the political lines, cutting across affiliations, cutting across who's who and who's what, who belongs to which party. I think all of us need to have that objective, the end goal, that India really has to fulfill its potential. That's the first thing I'll tell you. The second thing, how can we learn from each other? See, we are, we're very clear when it comes to learning from others. I had gone to Delhi, loved the Mohalla clinics there. Our chief minister said, if you like it, get me a concept, let's do it. So we've copied Mohalla clinics, we call them Basti Dawakhanas in our state, and we have set it up there. Likewise, we pick elements. See, TS IPAS that I just mentioned, it's not my original policy, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. So we looked at Singapore, we looked at New Zealand, we looked at several other countries. We took some elements from each, made it our own, customized it to the Indian needs, and have come out with our own policy. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's no need to discover everything from the scratch. See, India is trying to do a semiconductor fab now. We don't have to do everything from the scratch. We can pick up from the lessons in Taiwan, from the lessons in Singapore, from the lessons in the US, and not make the same mistakes what they've done. So like that, if every state can look at others, I'm sure there are some things that are very good in Punjab. So I need to be able to latch on to them. I need to be able to have the fortitude and the aptitude to be able to look at that and say, okay, this is good. This will work in my state. Let me take it back and let me share it with my people. But unfortunately, egos run very high in politics. So इतना easy नहीं है, but कोशिश तो कर सकते हैं. But सबसे अहम रोल ये है, विश्वेश, भारत सरकार को ये काम करना चाहिए. हमें बिठाना चाहिए. सभी राज्यों को बिठाना चाहिए और बोलना चाहिए कि आप क्या कर रहे हो बताओ जो बाकी लोग सीख सकते हैं. That sort of learning from each other kind of thing, has to be done by the big brother, which is Government of India. Thank you. We have a gentleman there.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
My name is Ramakant. I am from Bhutpur, Telangana. So in the morning we had a session that was on the development basically, and I have a question. Sorry, I have a question on the roadmap on decentralization, especially empowering the local bodies in terms of in developing education, primary education as well as primary health for Telangana?
Well, you know, this is a very interesting question, Ramakant. Thank you. You're from my state, so you know. When Modi ji was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he talked about how Government of India needs to decentralize more and you know, do more, let the states do more, right? But when the same man becomes the Prime Minister, it changes always. I mean, it's a role reversal. I'm not blaming him. Probably I would do the same if I was him. I'm not even blaming him. Point I'm trying to make is, in I think when was it, 83 or 93, when Rajiv Gandhi ji, you know, the whole Panchayat Raj Act amendment happened, the 73rd and 74th, the idea was absolutely right. I mean, the intent was right. But when it comes to execution, in fact, I worked as Panchayat Raj and Rural Development Minister for a short while, and then I became the Municipal Minister. I can tell you from experience, you know, I went to Kerala to study because, you know, there's this gentleman called Vijayanand, a very popular gentleman and, you know, eminent personality in rural development. So I went to him, I sat with him, tried to understand. I loved what they do in Kerala. You know, they actually in the state budget allocate money directly to the local body, and they actually appropriate it and they show it in the annexure कि कौन से village को कितना पैसा देते हैं, which is very, very unique. So I came back, you know, all enthu. I told our CM, sir, this can be done. So he said, you know, the context is different. In Kerala, the villages are 25,000 people each. In Telangana, some villages only have 500. So the same model might not work. But decentralization must happen without a question. But you also have to give them, you know, the ability to, you know, take decisions as well. What do I mean? Say, for instance, in Bhutpur, you have a primary school, and you have a village which is probably 1,000 people. There are teachers in the school, right? You have 5, 6, 7, whatever number of teachers. Now, should the village have the authority to transfer the teacher if he's non-performing or not? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. Because otherwise, how do you monitor the performance? How do you evaluate the performance? How will you penalize, or how will you actually reward good behavior versus bad behavior? Unfortunately, what happens is, with the kind of systems we have in place, we have line departments on one side. We have education department, which is like, which is on the concurrent list. Government of India has a role, state has a role, the Zilla Parishad has a role, the municipal has a role, the village also has a role. Now, who will the teacher report to? Who is he more subservient to? That's the challenge. So, you know, mere delegation will not help. Mere delegation saying it's done, okay, abhi tumhara kaam hai karo, that won't help. You also have to give them the power. You also have to give them the money. Classic example again is Telangana. We brought out legislation called as the Panchayati Raj Act, the new Panchayati Raj, Telangana Panchayati Raj Act, wherein what we've done is we wanted to ensure 85% survival of each and every sapling that was planted. So in the act we have put in, अगर आपने 85% सर्वाइवल नहीं इंश्योर किया तो सरपंच साहब आपका नौकरी जा सकता है, काउंसलर साहब आपका नौकरी जाएगा. Then it became a success. 10% of the budget was earmarked for green budget. So therefore, fund tie-up was also there. Job was clearly defined, role was clearly defined, responsibility was defined. So mere delegation, mere decentralization won't help without proper backing, without proper funding mechanism, is what I would say. But it has to happen. So I saw somebody raise a hand here. We'll go here, I think they were.
Good evening. I am Aditya, a second generation family managed enterprise. I would like to ask you, where could we envisage a time when there could be bipartisan political approach to most fundamental issues of public policy that our country faces? As a politician, could you envisage a time like that? And secondly, you told us this great story of Telangana. I would also like to ask you, what are the challenges that you foresee in the state of Telangana in the next 5 or 10 years? Thank you.
Bipartisanship in India in public life. Easier said than done. You know, we have ministers shouting in parliament saying, "Khamosh baito warna ED aa jayega tumhare ghar." So I don't know if bipartisanship is going to come anytime soon. We are a very divided, fractured society right now. As a country, I don't think that's good for us, firstly. I mean, politics comes and goes and positions come and go. End of the day, I think what matters is this country has to stay strong and stay united. If I have to be absolutely candid, you know, what's happening in Haryana, Manipur, or what's happened in Karnataka, in the form of that whole halal hijab nonsense. You know, it burns my, it literally burns, and it really gives me makes me angry as a citizen. Let me put it that way. Now, bipartisanship will only come if the leaders rise above petty political considerations. And while I am an optimist, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I won't lie to you, sugarcoat it to you, and tell you that it's going to happen very soon. It's not. The second thing you said, what are the challenges? There's plenty. The challenges as a growing state, you know, I have to continuously invest in infrastructure. Today, 1 acre of land in Hyderabad now, when we have set an auction 3 days ago, was went almost to a tune of 100 crores. I had a mixed feeling. I was happy on the one side because government was getting that money into our kitty so that we could do a few more things. But I was also a bit scared because it will create a very unique situation where, you know, the apprehension that, you know, the home, which is a dream for every ordinary man or a woman, will get that much more distant, will become that much more distant, that much more challenging. So as infrastructure growth happens, as wealth creation happens, I think one of the fundamental challenges that we are all going to run into is how do we keep up? How do we keep up with good infrastructure? You know, I think you may have heard of this very famous saying of John F. Kennedy. You know, a lot of people think that America has good infrastructure because it is a rich country, but America is rich because it has good infrastructure. So I think that focus on infrastructure, you know, as we move forward, as we grow, I think has to be consistent. It can't be a one-time thing. As a state, for example, I can say that I've built a project, I've built roads, I've built T-Hub, but what about building institutions which are future ready, which are going to cater to the needs of kids 10 years from now, 20 years from now? That's going to be a constant challenge. And the last thing I'll tell you, in India, especially with the kind of country that we are, for us to coexist peacefully, the biggest challenge is going to be how even a minor incident can disturb the tranquility of the society. That's going to be the biggest challenge, maintaining the social harmony. मैं बहुत बार देखता हूँ, peaceful state है, peaceful city है, और देखता हूँ कि एक छोटा इंसिडेंट काफी है, जैसा जो हरियाणा में कल हुआ, एक छोटा इंसिडेंट, because like they say, religion is the opium of the masses. एक छोटा इंसिडेंट किसी को फ्लेयर अप करके बहकाने के लिए, उकसाने के लिए काफी है. तो ऐसी हालत में हमें बहुत you know, circumspect रहना चाहिए, and that is going to be the biggest challenge for us as a country, actually.
Sir, I am Sridhar Cherkuri, sir. I am from Andhra Pradesh. I am seeing all the developments that are happening in Telangana from the other side of the border. So one question, sir. Whatever you have achieved in the last 9 years is exemplary and extraordinary. And you are managing with the same set of bureaucracy what other states also have. And what is the trick of the trade in managing the same set of bureaucracy in getting this high performance?
Great question, Sridhar Garu. Thank you. In fact, that's a great question, really good question, because it's the same exact set of bureaucrats, same exact set of engineers that have worked before us and have also continued to work with us beyond. See, we are the first state in India that had, by the way, also in 75 years of India independence, we're the first state to have completed an ambitious project of providing portable drinking water connection to each and every home. 10 million homes. Each and every home has been connected in a span of 3 years. The reason why I mention that is because I was a minister when we were formulating this policy and this project. So Sridhar, what happened is our chief minister called us for a meeting. He says, my engineering chief is there, my secretary is here, I'm here, seated right across. So our chief minister goes, you know, this project that I've dreamt or that I envision with about 45,000 crores of rupees, I would want to see that a reality in 3 years. So the engineering chief who was seated next to me almost fell off his chair. वो बाहर आया, almost रोने लगा. He was almost about to cry. He said, sir, my department does not have the ability to execute a project beyond 400 crores per year. Now here is a chief minister who is saying I have to do a 45,000 crore project. How do I do it? You are the minister, please tell him. I said, बात करते हैं, डरो मत, you know, पहले थोड़ा देखते हैं. So when ambitious, audacious plans are made, grand plans are made, इनिशियली डर तो सबको लगता है. इनिशियली वी आर ऑल स्केप्टिकल, वी आर स्केर्ड, विल वी डू इट, कैन वी डू इट? So we went to Gujarat to do a study tour because we were told they had done something called as a water grid in Gujarat. So me, my team, entire team, like 10 of us, we went to Gujarat. We met with engineers, we went to the villages, we looked at what they've done. They've done something, you know, they've reached 70% villages, they've only gone to the village, you know, overhead reservoir. They have really not done the last mile. So I was seated, you know, with this senior secretary, no names again. So this gentleman was spearheading the project. So I told him, sir, we want to do this project in 3 years or 4 years, and you know, we want to complete it. So we came here for learnings. He started laughing. He said, हम लोग 12 साल से काम कर रहे हैं, अभी तक पूरा नहीं हुआ है, और हमारे यहाँ मोदी जी है, फिर भी नहीं हुआ, तो आप क्या कर लोगे? तो I said, सर, मेंटल ब्लॉक है. वो ये है कि कर्जा नहीं लेना है. नो डेट, डेट फ्री कंपनी, डेट फ्री हाउस, ये बकवास है पहली बात. क्योंकि आप एक मिनट सोचो, हिमांशु आपकी क्या उम्र है? 30. आपके पिताजी का क्या उम्र है? 57. क्या करते थे और क्या कर रहे हैं? सर्विसेज में? He's a businessman. See, if you are in services, see, for example, my father's generation, Himanshu is a young guy, so I won't take his example. My father's generation and me. My father's nearly 70. I think, you know, in his age, in his times, the dream of every person of his age or his generation would be कि मुझे घर बनाना है, बट कब बनाऊंगा मैं? जब रिटायर होऊंगा, आखिरी में पैसा बचाऊंगा और सब कुछ समेट के इकट्ठा करके घर बनाएंगे, घर बसाएंगे. दैट वाज अ ड्रीम. गाड़ी खरीदना है तब भी बहुत दिन पैसा जमा कर कर करके तब खरीदते थे. बट आज जनरेशन जब चेंज हो गया, आज क्या हो रहा है? एक नौकरी मिल गया आईटी में या बैंकिंग में, फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज में, पहला चीज क्या करते हैं? घर खरीदते हैं. दूसरा क्या करते हैं? गाड़ी खरीदते हैं. क्या बदला? बदला ये एक्सेस टू कैपिटल बदला, हिम्मत बढ़ा. आज की बच्चों में हिम्मत है कि मेरी नौकरी यहाँ, अगर मैं बैंक ऑफ अमेरिका में काम कर रहा हूँ, वो गया भी, तो मैं जाके जेपी मॉर्गन चेस पकड़ लूंगा, मैं कमाई करूंगा, ईएमआई पे करूंगा, मेरी गाड़ी और घर में आराम से बसा लूंगा. सो ये जो जनरेशनल शिफ्ट इंडियंस में हुआ है, अनफॉर्चुनेटली गवर्नमेंट्स में नहीं हो रहा है. हम वही फिर उसी में बैठे हैं, घिसी फिटी मॉडल, जहां हम लोग बोलते हैं कर्जा नहीं करना है, डेट फ्री रहना है. क्या बकवास है? अगर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाना है, पैसा कहां से आएगा? अगर एक दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी इरिगेशन प्रोजेक्ट करनी है तो डेट तो रेस करना पड़ेगा. डेट रेस करके किस चीज पे लगाओगे, इस बात पे ध्यान दो. इफ यू आर रेजिंग डेट एंड इन्वेस्टिंग इन प्रोडक्टिव सेक्टर्स, इट इज गोइंग टू पे ऑफ. Please don't look at investment into infrastructure as debt. It is investment into the future. It is going to pay off. So this fallacy that has been created कि debt GDP ratio है, इतना नहीं होना चाहिए, इतना होना चाहिए, fiscally responsible budget management होना चाहिए, हाँ वो सब ठीक है. आज आप एक चीज बताते हैं, आपको सरप्राइज हो जाओगे. दुनिया की सबसे अमीर देश कौन सी है? यूएस. पता है यूएस का डेट जीडीपी रेशियो क्या है? 116%. Japan is the second largest economy of the world, third largest rather. China is second largest. Japan's debt GDP ratio पता है कितना है? 200%, 200%. You know what India's is? 59%. My state's is 25%. और फिर भी मेरी ऑपोजिशन गाली देते रहती है कि तुमने कर्जा इतना कर दिया, खत्म कर दिया. यार हमने कर्जा किया तो किसके लिए किया? हमने पैसा लगाया इरिगेशन में, प्रोजेक्ट्स पे, पावर पे लगाया, ड्रिंकिंग वाटर पे लगाया. इस सारे चीज मनी विल बिगेट मनी. वेल्थ इज मल्टीप्लाइड, वेल्थ इज doubled, tripled and quintupled, provided you put it in the productive sectors. This basic common sense unfortunately is lacking in the Indian society and also in Indian governments. Indian government इसलिए डरता है क्योंकि इंडियन सोसाइटी ये मानती है कि जिस आदमी ने ज्यादा कर्जा उठाया वो गलत कर रहा है. कर्जा करो but productive sector में पैसा लगाओ. It's investment into the future of this country. Invest in infrastructure. Today, let me also ask you one question. In Hyderabad Metro, I have the Canadian pension fund investing in Hyderabad Metro. Where is the Indian pensioners' money? बैंक में बैठा हुआ है, 30 लाख करोड़ अंडे दे रहा है. क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोग? 30 लाख करोड़, 40 लाख करोड़ LIC में, EPF में लगा के, कुछ नहीं करके कनाडा से पेंशन फंड आता है, सॉवरेन फंड आता है बाहर से, जायका का पैसा आता है 1.5% इंटरेस्ट पे। क्यों आ रहा है हिमांशु? वो इसीलिए आता है क्योंकि उनको मालूम है 1.5% पे अगर वो दे रहा है आपको तो उसको 5% कम से कम रिटर्न मिलता है। अब जबकि यहीं पे आप ही का पैसा यहाँ पे 9% 10% रिटर्न मिल सकता है, क्यों हम लोग इसको इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं? ये बेवकूफ़ी है। अनलेस दिस चेंजेस, this country will not move forward as quickly as it should. So prioritization, कम पैसा, I would say बजट में जो है उसका पहली तरह से उसका प्लान कर लो। आउट ऑफ बजट क्या कर सकते हो इनोवेटिवली वो भी प्लान करो। 5 किस्म के लोग आपको दिखेंगे। तो इसमें क्या है ना, चैलेंज ये है, आपको पॉपुलर बनना है, सोसाइटी में नाम हासिल करना है। ये 5 तरकीब है, 5 तरीके हैं। स्पोर्ट्स स्टार बनने के लिए टैलेंट चाहिए, मुश्किल है। मूवी स्टार बनने के लिए लुक्स भी चाहिए, लक भी चाहिए, मुश्किल है। बिजनेसमैन बनने के लिए पैसा चाहिए, टैलेंट भी चाहिए, थोड़ा मुश्किल है। क्रिमिनल बनने के लिए भी पैसा मतलब टैलेंट चाहिए, क्रिमिनल बनने के लिए भी, वो भी थोड़ा मुश्किल है। हमारी एक ही ऐसी फील्ड है जिसके लिए एंट्री बैरियर इतना कम है, इतना लो है कि कोई भी आ गया, थोड़ा पैसा बना लिया रियल एस्टेट में तो आ जाओ पॉलिटिक्स में। माई पॉइंट इज दिस इज अ फील्ड फुल ऑफ मीडियोकर पीपल, सो टू एक्चुअली survive, to thrive, to do well is a huge challenge. It's not easy. This is not a field where, because you have noble ideas and noble thoughts, you will be welcomed and, you would be put on a pedestal. No. You'll have to go through the grind. You'll have to put up with a lot of nonsense, a lot of nuisance, and survive. And win electoral battles. Trust me, that's not easy. It is easy to pass UPSC exam, very difficult to crack. Thank you, ma'am. She's nodding furiously. Thank you, ma'am. So it's very, very difficult to survive in Indian politics. I can tell you that much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You've come up with a plan of 1,000 rupees fine for every day of delay. What about non-performing politicians?
Non-performing politicians are kicked out, ma'am. 5 साल के बाद हमें they will get the boot and we are kicked out any which ways.
No. What does the government do for them? I mean, how does it make sure that they work?
Ma'am, the thing is, see, once you have written an exam, UPSC, and you've come into the field, come into the service, you are there till retirement. You know exactly in what capacity you're going to retire. As Special Chief Secretary or Chief Secretary or Cabinet Secretary, right? But in the case of us, who have joined politics, we really don't know. So we perform. See, I've been elected.
How has it managed in every field to do so well?
The thing is, see, our Chief Minister is a taskmaster. When you talk, see, I was reeling out a lot of statistics you may have noticed. I'll give you an example. So I went to meet a Chief Minister. Again, naming names is not a good idea. 7 साल पहले एक चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब ने मुझे बुलाया, उनको अच्छा लगा ये वाटर ग्रिड प्रोजेक्ट, उन्होंने मुझे बुलाया, खाना वाना खिलाया, बैठ गए हम लोग। तो मैंने उनसे पूछा, सर आपका अर्बन रूरल पॉपुलेशन का ब्रेकअप क्या है? वो तब तक ऑलरेडी 3 साल चीफ मिनिस्टर रह चुके हैं, उनको नहीं पता था। उन्होंने अपने चीफ सेक्रेटरी की तरफ देखा, बोला चीफ साहब कितना है? चीफ ने उसके सेक्रेटरी को देखा। तो क्या होता है ना, आपका अगर बॉस टास्क मास्टर है, बॉस का स्टैंडर्ड एक लेवल पे है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपको भी अपना गेम एलिवेट करना पड़ेगा उनके सामने बोलने के लिए। तो हमारी हालत है कि आज हमारे चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब के सामने अगर हम कुछ बोलना है हमें, या कुछ प्रेजेंटेशन देना है, या कुछ